Some stories refuse to stay buried in the forest. They linger, whispered between campfires, shared in hushed tones by people who never wanted attention, only truth. Across North America, encounters with something tall, powerful, and unmistakably intelligent continue to surface, defying explanation and challenging everything we think we know about the wilderness. What follows is a collection of such encounters, moments frozen in memory, tied together by fear, awe, and a sense that we are not as alone in the wild as we believe. It begins quietly, almost tenderly. In a remote stretch of woodland, a witness observed what at first seemed impossible. A large, hair-covered female figure crouched near the tree line, gently placing food on the ground. Deer emerged cautiously, not panicked, not fleeing. They approached as if familiarity had replaced instinctual fear. The figure remained still, deliberate, watching as the animals fed. There was no aggression, no sudden movement. This was not the behavior of a mindless beast. The witness later described the figure's posture as maternal, almost protective. The realization that this could have been a female Bigfoot shattered the usual image of a violent or primitive creature. Instead, it suggested social structure, intelligence, and an emotional depth rarely considered. The forest felt older in that moment, as if something ancient had briefly stepped into view. Far north in Alaska, the mood changes entirely. The wilderness there is unforgiving, vast, and brutally honest. A group of men working near dense forest reported violent shaking of massive trees, not from wind, but from something applying deliberate force. Entire trunks swayed, branches cracked. The sound was deep and rhythmic, like a warning. When one of the men approached cautiously, the shaking intensified, spreading from one tree to another, as if the forest itself was responding. There was no visual confirmation, but the message was unmistakable: leave. This type of behavior has been reported repeatedly in Sasquatch encounters, often interpreted as territorial defense. The sheer strength required to move mature Alaskan trees suggests something far beyond known wildlife. Whatever caused it understood intimidation and used it effectively. In British Columbia, the encounter became intensely personal. A lone hiker moving through a remote trail noticed the sudden absence of sound. No birds, no insects. The forest had gone silent. Then, from behind a cluster of trees, a figure stepped into view. Tall, broad, covered in dark hair, and standing upright with ease. What followed was a moment that haunted the witness for years: direct eye contact. The eyes were described as dark, focused, and deeply aware. There was no snarl, no charge. Just observation, curiosity, perhaps. The witness felt studied, measured. Time stretched unnaturally before the figure stepped back into the forest and vanished without a sound. That moment left behind an unsettling question: if this was just an animal, why did it feel like being seen by another thinking being? Another sighting occurred near something far more human-made: a power pole. In an area bordering a rural road, a large figure was spotted standing upright beside the pole, giving the witness an unexpected point of reference. The figure was estimated to be well over 8 feet tall, dwarfing the structure next to it. What made this encounter striking was the creature's apparent comfort near human infrastructure. It did not flee immediately. It stood still, watching traffic pass, as if assessing patterns or waiting for something. When it finally moved, it crossed the road in long, fluid strides, disappearing into the forest with shocking speed. This encounter challenged the idea that Bigfoot avoids humans at all costs. Instead, it suggested adaptation, awareness, and possibly even curiosity about our world. One of the most chilling accounts comes from a seasoned forest ranger, someone trained to identify wildlife, terrain, and danger. While patrolling a restricted area, he noticed footprints unlike anything he had seen before, massive, deeply impressed into the soil. As he followed them, a sense of dread crept in, the kind that overrides logic. Then he saw it. Towering above the surrounding brush was a figure estimated at nearly 12 feet tall. Its shoulders were wide, its arms long, hanging almost to its knees. The ranger described a powerful smell, earthy and musky, and an overwhelming feeling of being completely vulnerable. The creature did not approach. It stood still, partially obscured, as if deciding whether the ranger was a threat. After several seconds that felt like minutes, it turned and walked away, each step heavy but controlled. The ranger never returned to that area alone. Years of investigations have followed encounters like these. Researchers, trackers, and ordinary people drawn by unanswered questions have ventured into the wild, collecting footprints, recordings, and first-hand testimonies. What emerges from these investigations is not a single monster myth, but a pattern. These beings appear to understand boundaries. They observe more than they attack. They communicate through sound, movement, and intimidation rather than violence. Rocks thrown with precision, wood knocks echoing through valleys, and strategic appearances at the edge of vision all point toward intelligence. Skeptics argue misidentification or hoaxes, yet many witnesses gain nothing from coming forward except ridicule. Some lose jobs. Some lose peace of mind. What ties all these encounters together is not just fear, but respect. Witnesses often describe an unspoken agreement, an understanding that they were allowed to see something, briefly, and no more. The forests of Alaska, British Columbia, and beyond are vast enough to hide entire worlds within them. If something intelligent evolved alongside us and chose secrecy over conflict, would we even know? Or would we dismiss the evidence because it doesn't fit neatly into textbooks and museums? These stories do not ask for blind belief. They ask for open curiosity. They ask us to remember that the wild is not fully mapped, not fully understood, and not entirely ours. Whether Bigfoot is a relic of an ancient hominid, an undiscovered species, or something even stranger, the consistency of these encounters suggests one thing clearly: people are seeing something real. Something that watches from the trees. Something that moves when we are not looking. And something that, every so often, allows itself to be seen, just long enough to remind us how little we truly know.